King's mind the necessity of destroying the hostile sea power as a prelude to any scheme of invasion was disregarded or was not understood. On the 30th of May, in fine weather, the Armada at last sailed from Lisbon. The report sent back to Philip II by Medina Sidonia as the fleet passed Cape Finisterre and stood out into the Bay of Biscay told that all was well, but a few days later a storm for the Atlantic swept the sea and partly dispersed the Armada. The storeships held on till they sighted Scilly Islands, and then, finding they had parted from the fleet, turned back. Into the northern ports of Spain came scattered ships that had lost spars and sails, some of them leaking so badly that only hard labour at the pumps kept them afloat. Medina Sidonia, with the main body, made for Corunna, where he ordered the stragglers to reassemble. On 19th of June he wrote to the king, reporting his arrival. Then he sent letters betraying so much discouragement and irresolution that one wonders he was not promptly relieved of his command. He proposed that the whole enterprise should be abandoned, and some means found for arranging terms of peace. He reported that the fleet had suffered badly in the storm, that there was much sickness on board, that large quantities of provisions had gone bad and must be replaced, and that the ships were short of water. Instead of dismissing him from the command, the king wrote to his admiral, ordering and encouraging him to renew the attempt. The ships were refitted and provisioned, and drafts of men collected to replace the invalided soldiers and sailors. Early in July the Armada was again ready for sea. The news that King Philip's great Armada had been beaten back by the wild Biscay gales reached England when the whole country was in fever of preparation for resistance. A commission of noblemen and gentlemen had been appointed to set down such means as are fittest to put the forces of the realm in order to withstand any invasion. The Lord Lieutenants of the counties were directed to be ready to call out the local levies, which formed a roughly armed and mostly untrained militia. Garrisons were organized in the seaports, formed of more reliable and better equipped men, and a small force was collected at Tilbury to oppose landing in the Thames estuary. Faggots and brushwood were piled on hilltops from Land's End to Berwick to send the news of the Spaniards' arrival through England by a chain of beacon fires. The best of the Queen's advisers, men like Lord Admiral Howard of Effingham and such experienced seamen as Hawkins, Drake, and Fenner, realized and succeeded in persuading the council that it was on the sea, not on the land, that England must be protected from invasion. Their letters in the Armada State Papers are full of practical lessons even for the present time. While insisting that the main effort must be concentrated on the fleet, they did not disregard the advisability of subsidiary preparations on land in case of accidents. But Howard insisted that a few well-trained men were worth fourfold their number of irregular levies, and wrote to the council, "I pray your lordships to pardon me that I may put you in remembrance to move her Majesty that she may have an especial care to draw 10 or 12,000 men about her own person that may not be men unpractised. For this she may well assure herself that 10,000 men that be practised and trained together under a good governor and expert leaders shall do her Majesty more service than any 40,000 which shall come from other parts of the realm. For, my lords, we have here 6,000 men in the fleet, which we shall be able, out of our company, to land upon any great occasion, which being as they have been trained here under captains and men of experience, and each man knowing his charge and they their captains, I had rather have them to do any exploit than any 16,000 men out of any part of the realm." The fleet, from which Howard of Effingham was ready to land these trained men if necessary, was even more numerous than the Armada itself, though the average size of the ships was smaller. On the list there appear the names of no fewer than 197 ships, ranging in size from the Triumph of 1,100 tons, Frobisher's ship, down to the small coasting craft. The flagship, the Ark, or Ark Royal, was a vessel of 800 tons. Contemporary prints show that she had a high poop and forecastle, but not on the exaggerated scale of the Spanish galleons, and that she had 4 masts, and was pierced with 3 tiers of portholes for guns, besides gun ports in the stern. She had a crew of 270 mariners, 34 gunners, and 126 soldiers. Contrary to the system on which the Armada was manned, the seamen in every ship of the English fleet exceeded the soldiers in number. The Ark carried no less than 44 guns, namely 4 cannon, 60-pounders, 4 demi-cannon, 30-pounders, 12 culverins, long 18-pounders, 12 demi-culverins, long 9-pounders, 6 sakers, 6-pounders, and 6 smaller pieces, some of them mounted inboard for resisting boarders at close quarters. This was an armament equalled by few of the Spanish ships, and the fact is that the English ships, as a rule, were better armed than the Spaniards. But few of Howard's fleet were of heavy tonnage. There were only 2 ships over 1,000 tons, 1 of 900, 2 of 800, 3 of 600, 5 or 6 of 500, and all the rest less than 400 tons, many of them less than 100. But though the English ships were smaller than the Spaniards, they were better at sailing and manoeuvring, thoroughly handy craft, manned by sailors who knew how to make them do their best, and who were quite at home in the rough northern seas. The main body of the fleet under Howard of Effingham assembled at Plymouth. Detached squadrons under Lord Henry Seymour and Sir W. Winter watched the Straits of Dover. Some of the captains thought Plymouth had been unwisely chosen as the station of the main fleet, pointing out that a south or southwest wind, which would be a fair wind for the Spaniards, would be a very foul one for the ships working out of the long inlet of Plymouth Harbour. End of Chapter 6, Part 1. Recording by Sarah Williams.